Maryland basketball proved they're elite against Ohio State.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you for making us part of your day. And I'm also doing work at InsideBlackandGold.net. So make sure you guys head over to InsideBlackandGold.net for all your latest Terps news. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Maryland basketball absolutely proved that they're elite, and I think they proved that they're going to be a pretty good team and a scary team in the Big Ten this year against the Ohio State Buckeyes last night on Wednesday. What I watched from Maryland basketball was something that you just don't normally see, I feel like, a Maryland team do. We absolutely dominated Ohio State. Wasn't even close, was never in question. The Terps outplayed Ohio State in every single category and did some special things that you just normally don't see a college basketball team do. And a lot of people questioned, including me, were the Terps going to be ready for their first Big Ten test? And sometimes you get to a spot like this, you haven't played anybody, and you're not ready. You're not ready to go. You haven't played good enough teams to be ready. But this Ohio State team was shell-shocked by Maryland basketball and the special things that they were able to do. And they didn't understand what we brought to the table. They didn't understand how good Maryland basketball was last night. And I don't think I knew that we were quite this good. And you don't take this game more than just one game. I think it was a really special performance. I do think we proved that we're a really good basketball team because that Ohio State basketball team is not a bad team. And the fact we absolutely broke the brakes off them, beat the brakes out of them, whatever people say, that showed that we've got something special this year. But it's not like that's going to happen every single game. That's not what I expect at all. But I do think it showed that we were absolutely ready for Big Ten play, which I wasn't sure because the only two solid teams that we'd play this year were Marquette. Marquette's a really good team. They took a bad loss last night against Iowa State, but a Marquette team that's talented, as well as we played an okay Villanova team, a Villanova team that hasn't looked that great. They did pick up a big win a couple of days ago, which is actually big for our resume. We want teams like Villanova to win. We want teams like Ohio State. Now, everything we beat, we want those teams to win games. Even the teams you lose to, you want them to win games so that loss doesn't look as bad. But, yeah, Villanova just beat number 14 Cincinnati 68-60, which really honestly helps the Terps' resume as Villanova continues to hopefully get better throughout the year. But my point is that is a pretty cool thing for you to not have played any Big Ten play, have not played a game yet against a competitive Big Ten team, a Big Ten team at all, and you go out there and absolutely crush Ohio State. I think it shows what I've been talking about, that one, Maryland, let's keep it simple. This team's really talented. It's a really talented elite team. I really believe that. And I think they're going to have every opportunity to win the Big Ten this year. I don't think there's that many teams better than us, if any. And you might call me crazy now, but I've been saying it all year. This isn't what we had last year. This is a lot different. And I'll talk about more of the personnel and everything a little bit later and who played well. But last year's team, the complete opposite would have happened. We would have been on the opposite side of things. We would have been the team down 50-17 at the half. It would have been a complete opposite. And I saw a Maryland team that is complete. Not only in terms of our actual personnel, but in terms of the offensive side of the ball. We scored 50 points and a half. I haven't seen them. I don't know the last time a Maryland team has scored 50 points and a half against a Big Ten opponent. It's not like we were playing. It's not like we're playing a Manhattan or a Bucknell or an Alcorn State playing Ohio State, a Big Ten opponent in the first Big Ten game of the season. We would have never could have imagined something like that last year. We weren't capable of it last year. We didn't have what we have this year, but we have a complete team offensively and defensively. Last year we were good defensively, but the offense was horrible, and it was one of the worst in the entire country, to be honest. We couldn't shoot the ball at all. We couldn't really do much of anything on the offense side of the ball, and we were so dependent on Jameer Young. We are now, this team's complete. The scoring spread out. We have guys all over the place. We have good players coming off the bench. And when I really look at this team has a chance to do something really cool this year. And I think it's so important to start the year 1-0, especially with Maryland's schedule. Starting the year 1-0 puts you at a lot better of a place than you would have been starting 0-1. Because then the Purdue game feels like some pressure. That's a game you feel like you really kind of need to win. I wouldn't say it's a must win. You got plenty of game left if we have lost Ohio State. But the fact that we crushed Ohio State, obviously I want to beat Purdue more than anybody, but it's not as much of a like, if we don't beat Purdue, then it's like, it feels like things are starting to blow up. Like it's not quite like that. We're still very much in things and very much where we need to be, even with a loss to Purdue. And then I think now you have the opportunity to also beat Purdue and get your team into the top 25. If you beat Purdue, you'll be a top 25 team 100%. And I think I think Purdue's got a little bit more experience together, a little bit more older guys, but I think we're a little bit more talented than Purdue. But that's coming up later. Then you look at the schedule, and then we have a really good chance if we beat Purdue to win our next 3 games pretty handily. Against St. Francis, we should win that. Syracuse, I don't think Syracuse. I've watched Syracuse play this year. I don't think they're that great, to be completely honest. I don't think they're that talented. And then Maryland Eastern, so you would win 3 straight games, and that would turn into a pretty big win streak for Maryland basketball if they were able to beat Purdue. But even if you don't beat Purdue now, it doesn't feel like all the pressure's on you. To beat Purdue. It feels okay because we just absolutely dominated an Ohio State team that hasn't been bad this year, has been 5-2, has done some decent things, but for Maryland to beat the brakes off them, like I said earlier, that's impressive. To only allow them to score 17 points in the first half, that's pretty big time. 17 is a low number. Like, you have to play some really good defense for Maryland to be able to do that. And that's what we saw the Terps being able to do. We forced them to shoot 21% from the 3-point line. I thought Maryland did a really good job of making sure that Ohio State didn't get going from the 3-point line and that their guards couldn't shoot well. And I said that before the game. That's going to be important. Bruce Thornton is going to want to be able to get going. We were able to stop him and force him to only 9 points. In 32 minutes. He didn't get that many shots because I loved how we defended him overall. And then the Mobley kid had a good game. He was definitely solid. They're probably their best player. They probably need to start him. He went 3-6 from 3-point line. But the rest of the team we limited. The Devin Royal kid didn't have a bad game either. But other than that, we really limited them, and we played a high-level game against Ohio State Buckeyes. And I didn't see it coming. I thought we would win. I thought we would win by probably like 4 or 5, somewhere around that. I thought it would be a close game, a couple of lead changes, a close game at half. Maybe at a point we were down by a couple of points because it feels like we like to get down, but absolutely domination, and that's pretty cool to see. And one thing I want to say before we move on, give credit to Kevin Willard. A lot of credit to Kevin Willard. A lot of people last year said he's got to be done. He can't be our coach. And I said, no, hold on a second. In his first year, he made March Madness. He looked like he was going to be our coach of the future. And the second year, everything went downhill. But I said, I don't think it's his fault. I think this roster wasn't constructed right. I think that this roster is just not very good. I don't think there's very many coaches that could have done anything decent with that team. And then this year, he put together one of the better teams I've seen Maryland basketball have in honestly a while. And this year, this team going out and beating Ohio State the way they did, that's special to be able to do. And that's some really good coaching to beat a team 50-17 in the first half. That's something that is not easy to do. That's something that's really impressive. So I want to make sure before we kind of just glaze over and say, yeah, Maryland basketball played really well, we got to give credit at the top to Kevin Willard, because last year we were so quick to discredit him and say he's not a very good coach. He needs to go, fire Willard, which is always an overreaction. One bad year doesn't mean you have to fire somebody. I say the similar thing about Mike Loxley at Maryland, but I think that Kevin Willard, good guy, good coach, and I think he proved that last night against Ohio State and putting the Terps in the right position to win, and it was a really impressive performance. And you just want to do the most with this talent, because I don't know what it's going to look like. Just thinking about this year right now, and absolutely impressive. And I think the Terps have proved that they're an elite team this year against Ohio State. Who actually impressed? Who actually played well? Who needs to play better? Talk about that after this ad from FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sports app gives you everything you need to place live bets all in the NFL, all in one place. So when you get the hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-plays, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. There's so many different things to bet on FanDuel right now. So make sure you guys head over to FanDuel, whether it's college basketball, the NBA, the NFL, whatever the case is, there are so many different things you can bet on FanDuel. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So there's a couple of Maryland players that I thought really impressed last night against Ohio State. It was a little bit of an early start time. The 6:30 start time was interesting. At the beginning of the game, the student section looked really good. This is a little bit of a side note, but the student section looked really good, but then the rest didn't, and that kind of makes sense. 6:30 for students, I guess, is manageable, but for the rest of the world on a Wednesday, you're probably not going to get the best results. But I do think that if this team keeps winning, the crowd's absolutely going to fill up and be what we want. So I thought a lot of players actually had really good games. There wasn't a whole lot that I have to complain about. I do want to highlight some guys and some things that I think are going really well. One thing, which I think is obvious, Derek Queen is absolutely special. I told you guys this before the year. Some guys just translate to college basketball. And he's one of those guys that I don't know exactly what his NBA future looks like, and I still don't. He looks more and more every day like he's going to be a lottery pick. But the way he plays basketball, how talented he is, the way he can score, all these different things that he can do on the court, his IQ that he plays with, and that we saw last night against Ohio State, it's so obvious that he is a special type of talent. And he's showing it night in and night out, and it's pretty consistent. I haven't had a Derek Queen flop in a big game. And when you're a freshman, you expect them to not play at a high level every single game. You expect them to be some up and downs. But Derek Queen's a guy that so far, knock on wood, there hasn't really been a ton of up and downs. Sure, he'll have a turnover there, he'll have a turnover there. But overall, he's getting double-doubles, had another 11-rebound game against Ohio State. He also scored 17 points, and he really showed his bag off and showed what he could do. He's really good kind of in the post area, mid-range area. He has a really good moves down there, and I think when you look at it, he's shooting a really good percentage, 6 of 10 from the field, 5 of 6 from the free throw line, and he showed a special bag down low. The only next thing is I want to see some of these three-pointers go in. He seems to be attempting like about one a game. I do want to see some of those go in. But 17 points for big Derek Queen, and he's showing that not only one of the best freshmen in the Big Ten, he's one of the best players in the Big Ten, and he's definitely making an argument to be an all Big Ten type of guy, and definitely for freshman of the year. But he looked impressive. He just had some moves down low in the post, in the mid-range last night. That a post hook, I know you guys saw that that are just really impressive that you just don't see a lot of people being able to do. And then Jacoby Gillespie was the best player on the floor last night. I know everyone's going to highlight that play where he made that Ohio State player fall, which I thought was honest. It was a really cool play. He's got handles, man. He's quick. He can get to the rim. He can shoot the three-point shot. Like, he's everything we could want. And he also made 4 threes last night, 4 of 8 from the three-point line. I thought Jacoby Gillespie, in the 29 minutes he played, and 7-11 from the field, I thought he played very well, along with 4 assists. He had a bit of a not like a down game against Villanova, but other people kind of picked up the slack. And this is what I'm talking about with Maryland basketball. You don't know who it's going to be. Gillespie could go for 25 and could help us win. He could also go for 5 points and we could still win. Where last year, our point guard, if Jameer Young went for 5 points, we would have got blown out like Ohio State did last night. There's just a more diversity of scoring, and he's proving that he's one of the better guards in the Big Ten with 23 points in his first Big Ten game, and he's stepping up 5 of 5 from the free throw line, made our free throws, and that was honestly really special to see as well. And then Selton Miguel, I say right now he's kind of our 5th guy in the lineup in terms of scoring and scoring options, but he's a really good 5th option. Like, if he's our 5th option on the offense side of the ball, we're doing something right, because he did exactly what we needed last night. 10 points, 2 of 4 from the three-point line, 4 of 8 from the field. He's doing the things we need him to do, and he definitely can score the ball. Had a couple of deep threes. I really like the way that he looked. Julian Reese, he did a really good job of pinning himself deep. Like I said before the game, they didn't have guys that could guard Julian Reese down low. They just didn't. Or Derek Queen. Without that kid Bradshaw, who's having like investigations at Ohio State's campus or something. I don't know exactly the deal is, but they didn't have a guy. When Julian Reese would pin them down low, you get to his left hand. He did a really good job of that, had 7 rebounds as well. So he's clearly doing exactly what we need him to do. And the Twin Towers down there, Reese and Queen, are obviously playing at a really effective level. Rodney Rice had 9 points, was the only starter not in double digits. Definitely didn't have his best game shooting the 3 ball. He went 0-6 from the three-point line, which definitely hurt a little bit. But you know what? He's one of our best shooters, probably our best shooter. And if he's going to have a bad game, I'd rather him keep shooting and keep putting it up rather than just stopping. And he's not losing confidence. Like, he's the best shooter on our team, and he's a really solid shooter. And he just had a bad shooting game, and that's the thing. Last year, we could have had a bad shooting game for one player, and it would have felt like we probably weren't going to win the game. Like, we won 83-59 while only shooting 28% from the three-point line. That's pretty special to be able to win a game that big and not even shoot in the 30s. A big reason why was because numbers. Honestly, Maryland shot at a really high level from the three-point line overall, but I think that last year we wouldn't have been able to do the same things. So definitely a pretty special performance overall by our starters. I thought we had a really good game. And the last point I want to make is Gapari, man. Tafara Gapari has been really good off the bench. And I like Jordan Geronimo, but I don't really see the need to play Geronimo when he gets back, because Gapari's playing so well, and I like him giving us some of that being able to stretch the floor a little bit. I honestly don't think right now that Geronimo, even when he comes back, should play. He went 1-2 from the three-point line, 12 points, a block, 12 points, Really good game from him, 3 rebounds. He's really good off the bench for us. Deshaun Harris-Smith did some things well, but you just got to improve the shooting. 2 of 4 from the free throw line. You can't go 50% from the free throw line every game. 0 for 4 from the field, 21 minutes. You just got to improve a little bit the shooting. But I think overall, Tafara Gapari is honestly the highlight of the game, and he did some really special things off the bench for Maryland basketball. Maryland former 4-star recruit Brandon Jacobs is entering the transfer portal. We'll talk about that next. So this one hurts. Brandon Jacobs is entering the transfer portal for Maryland. And we're going to start getting hit with these, and it's really going to start to suck because it's going to be like young guys and guys that you thought could be the core of the team. And I honestly thought, I don't know if there was a guy on this team that had a bigger future than what Brandon Jacobs had for the Terps. He was a 4-star recruit. He got a lot of time this year, and I honestly thought he was going, as a freshman, he got a lot of time, and I thought he had the brightest future, maybe out of anybody on the current team. Now, there's some guys in the freshman class like Malik Washington, maybe Jalen Gilchrist, that I thought could challenge him to be one of our future really good top-end players. Messiah Del Home, some of those guys. But clearly Brandon Jacobs wants to leave, and it hurts Maryland because he was going to start next year. Like he was right in line. He got time this year. He was going to start. He was going to play a ton, and he was going to have every opportunity to get his name out there and be a top player in the Big Ten, because we lose our safeties next year. We lose Glendon Miller. We lose Dante Trader. Those guys are gone this year, and so he was going to have every opportunity to prove that he's one of the better safeties. Not on our team, but maybe in the Big Ten. And I thought he had that type of talent I thought he was as talented, if not more talented, and had the better future than maybe Dante and Glendon even potentially, just because of his length and what he can do on the field. It's special, and it's definitely going to hurt to lose him. I think he's going to have a lot of opportunities in the portal to go a lot of different places. We'll see exactly where he ends up. It definitely kind of stinks for Maryland to lose a guy like that. I think that's the guy that you definitely want to keep on your team. We'll see if he goes. He's originally from Florida. We'll see if maybe he goes back down to Florida or something like that, or somewhere else he can play. I just think that losing him definitely is not exactly what the Terps want to do, and is not the best start to the offseason. But I'm telling you guys now, there's going to be a lot of portal action for Maryland football. Give it a week or two. Over the next couple of weeks, there's going to be a lot of different portal movement, because right now there's just, we didn't have a great year, and it doesn't really matter what team you're on. There's going to be guys that lead your team, whether you have a great year or not. And I wasn't surprised, but I thought that, I don't want to say what's the point of coming to Maryland if you're going to transfer right away, because you never know what can happen. But it does kind of we get some of these. This is what I'm talking about with Mike Loxley. We get some of these high-level guys, these high-level recruits, and we just chop Robinson. Some of these other guys, Jayshon Barham was making plays for Michigan this year, and you just can't. Mike Loxley just can't keep them, and that hurts. It hurts, and that's why I'm talking about with the 2025 class. If we get all these top-end guys, Malik, Messiah, Zymir Smith, Jalen Gilchrist, Iverson Howard, some of these other guys that are really talented and really good football players, but if you can't keep them, then it doesn't really matter. What did Brandon Jacobs do for us? He had he played in a lot of games as a freshman, didn't make a huge impact, but showed that he could be a future really good player. But now he's gone and you can't see it. So you can't just get these guys and not keep them. You got to figure out a way to be able to keep some of these guys, because if not, they're going to leave, and it's not really going to matter that we sign a top 25, a top 26 type of class in our 2025 class, because guys are just going to leave. And so I want Coach Loxley to make an emphasis to keep your more talented guys. I don't know if it's an NIL thing. Do we need to throw more money at them? Whatever the case is. But I think Brandon Jacobs will go somewhere definitely pretty solid and definitely pretty decent, because I just think he's that type of talent where he can go somewhere really good. Former 4-star recruit, showed some flashes last year. The big-time schools love guys like that. And it'll be interesting to see where he ends up. I think it could be a Big Ten. I think it could be an SEC, an ACC, whatever the case is. I'll be surprised if it's not Power 5, and I think he's going to be able to play wherever he goes. I do think you sometimes want to caution people when leaving. Sometimes people leave, and it's not brighter on the other side. We saw that last year with a couple of guys from Maryland football. But you want to make sure that it's a right fit, because he would have played next year. He would have started. He would have every opportunity in the Big Ten. And sometimes you don't really need a lot more than that A lot of people's goals are the next level, but you don't need a lot more than that to get to the next level. That's all we have for today. Thank you for listening to Locked on Terps. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're here every day talking Maryland football and basketball. So thank you for listening to Locked on Terps.